Welcome back. James Shields is in the studio from the Sheffield Star, talking all things Blades. We have interviews with Ron Atkinson and a further chat with David Hurst to come. Both of them were filmed, by the way, at Overton Stadium, a recent book launch event for Carlton Palmer. I'm doing the roundup this week. It won't be as detailed or as comprehensive as the one that James Gregg does, but I will be doing my level best. And joining James, we have Azz Mohammed, familiar face. He's normally in a straitjacket. Get over to your corner of the studio over there when you normally read the news. What are you doing over here?
I've been sat there too long.
You've been sat there so long, you've laid quite a few eggs. I always go away with a few eggs on under the battery hen box over there with the lights.
Bought his dressing gown over
here. Yeah. How come you, as a straight newsreader, get to laugh and sit on this sofa?
No, you wouldn't believe it, would you?
I wouldn't. Well, I do believe it, and it's for the best of reasons. Because tomorrow night you launch a new show on Sheffield Live, and we'll talk in more detail later. Tell us who your first star guest is. Go on.
Well, the first one on the episode, the first one is none other than England international, plays for Manchester City.
Yeah.
It's Kyle Walker.
Wow.
So yeah, quite a big name.
Wow. How did you manage to get in for the price of a pint?
Kyle Walker, well, through connections, contacts me and my co-presenter Stephen Nicholson. We're working together on it, so he managed to, speak to Kyle, who was happy to come on the show, and it's quite interesting because we go right to the beginning with this. Find out where he comes from, speak to people who've known him, who've grew up with him, the place he trained at. So we really go right to the roots with this and go all the way to where he is now. So.
Sounds fascinating.
Quite interesting. It is, yeah.
I mean, it's not a very easy business getting footballers these days to appear on shows or to do interviews with papers or whatever, is it? I mean, it's not very easy.
I must admit, I'm probably quite spoiled.
Well,
at Bramall.
I think both Sheffield clubs actually make it a lot easier than some other clubs make it. I was reading about Grimsby Town this week. What a story that is. A legitimate story broken by a very reputable journalist over there, Matt Dean, has been rubbished publicly by the club, referring to him. And you and I both know that he's got impeccable, very good sources. If he could reveal the sources of his information. This was a story that Curtis Woodhouse was possibly going to be lined up to go in as a coach there under Russell Slade, which doesn't sound the most far-fetched thing in the world. Grimsby Town absolutely rubbished it, but all journalists who know Matt Dean will be rooting for him, supporting him in that particular route. So how did you get Kyle Walker? Go on, tell me. Tell me what the secret is.
Obviously, we contacted Kyle Walker. My colleague knows him, which is great, and then made it all happen through communication, text messages and whatnot. He came on the show, we went there, we filmed, we kind of filmed everything beforehand and then filmed him after, so we knew what was coming.
And has he seen it?
He's seen it, yeah.
He's approved it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It sounds fantastic. We'll go into this and the ethos, and the programme's going to be on a weekly basis. Yeah. I think it's tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Well, yeah, that's the first one. So 8 o'clock is the first 1 hour special.
8 p.m.
8 p.m, the 1 hour special, and then after that is every week, 8:30 on a Friday. So we go through various things. We don't just cover sport, so we go through entertainment. I mean, the week after that, we're speaking to Craig David and, a few other artists, and then it goes on. I don't want to give away too much, but there is a lot to come.
He's a bit of a name dropper, isn't he?
I know.
He's doing very well.
I thought you were bad, Alan.
Yeah, I'm going to have him as my agent in future. He's going to start lining up my guests in future for me. Sign him on. Right, okay, let's do a roundup, bit of around the houses. Not quite as detailed as James, but as I say, I'll produce a few headlines for you. Sheffield Steelers going to Denmark this weekend to play in the Continental Cup. Congratulations, by the way, for last Saturday's victory over Manchester at the Sheffield Arena. There were 7,000 spectators there at that, which is fantastic support, and I know it's always an entertaining spectacle. Sheffield Sharks basketball looking to bounce back from a narrow 80-75 defeat at champions Leicester. Next up, they go to Newcastle Eagles next week, another very informed team, so a big challenge. I've been watching non-league football aplenty this week. I noted that last weekend, when there was no United at home, no Wednesday, no Football League, apart from a little bit in the lower leagues, obviously. It's all relative, this. 769 spectators exactly attended 2 non-league games in Sheffield, which is actually pretty good compared to the normal level of support. I probably went to the wrong place. I'd seen Sheffield a few days earlier. Sheffield FC had a fantastic, very entertaining 4-3 victory at home to Newcastle Town. I went to Sandygate to watch Hallam, inform Hallam as it was, at home to Dronfield Town. Ended up in a shock result. Hallam won, Dronfield 4. It was actually 3-0 to Dronfield after 10 minutes. Some really exceptionally soft goals, but well done to Dronfield for that excellent victory there. I did see Chris White. It was great when you see a manager of a professional team take the time out to come to a local non-league club, and Chris Wilder turned up there, watched the game. Great to chat to him, and fantastic also to be introduced and to meet his lovely wife Francesca. We had a good chat at half time. She used to watch the Blades from the Cop, but furthermore, the reason I really like her is she says she watches this show most weeks. Occasionally, Chris watches it with her. So good evening, Fran, if you're watching this evening, and Chris. Chris, James would better watch what he says from now on.
But it was great to see them. We should have told me that beforehand.
He gets his own moment with the players, you know.
Yeah. You know what I was saying about interviews being very easy to get? I think got a feeling suddenly that's going to dry up. But
it was very good to see them there. Hallam then, normal service was resumed in midweek. I think this was last night, a 4-0 victory at Emley. Good to see that. I think Hallam have got Ecclesall United this weekend. Sheffield are at Olverchurch. Now, last night, bit of a first for me, I went to Sandy Lane. You been to Sandy Lane?
I have, yes.
Right, okay. Home of Worksop Town.
I have.
And it turns out the home of one of our local teams in Sheffield, Woodhouse, Handsworth, Paramore as well, where good old Jazz Colliver manages. Crowd of 450 odd, I think. Really enjoyed the atmosphere. It was a good old football atmosphere. Worksop won, Mansfield won. Ryan Hindley, our old friend, doing a good job at Worksop. They had a fantastic victory in the FA Vase last weekend. It was good to see him, and a really good game of football which finished fairly all square. But there was a goal in that I'm going to ask you two guys whether you've seen any of the like. And there's always somebody who's seen it. There's never anything new. David Holdsworth, when I mentioned it to him today, had seen the like before. So, okay, so you've got a free kick to Worksop, 25 yards or so from goal. You get the standard defensive wall, sort of 10 yards on from where the kick's being taken. I'm behind the goal. I'm watching behind the goal. So there's the goalkeeper there, just a couple of yards off his line, just looking to see, where to position himself. A Worksop player comes and stands right in front of the goalkeeper, right, yards offside, like about 8 or 9 yards offside, standing there, thinking, are they going to take this kick with him standing there? It's not. And suddenly, as the guy that took the kick and scored, who was Steve Woolley, who had a really good game, as he ran up towards the ball, the guy standing in front of the goalkeeper raced out, just sprinted straight out and got sort of level as the kick was flighted into the top corner. Brilliant goal, and it was, of course, a distraction technique, and it worked perfectly because the keeper's wondering why is he standing here? It's all legal. Have you seen that before?
I've never seen anything like it. No, I must admit.
I haven't.
Although I know Alan Neil obviously prides himself, doesn't he, down at Bramall Lane on his set-piece routine, so there might be some mileage.
Maybe he shouldn't have said anything and just left it.
I know, just leave it. I'll tell you what, as a complete aside though, and I'm going to get this off my chest here, you're talking there about the non-league football, and I think it's great to see managers getting involved in non-league. You've only got to look at the number of players at Sheffield United at the minute who have played non-league football. Yes. And who have come through to show that, that a healthy non-league game can help the professional game as well. But I tell you what, when you're talking about, attendances like that, and I get it, it's an international week, but there's still football. There's still football league games going on. But I tell you what, all these great clubs, Sheffield FC, Hallam, you've got Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday. How on earth do we not have here? And I know I've ranted on about this in the paper a couple of times. Why on earth is the National Football Museum not here in Sheffield? What on earth is all that about?
Yeah, it should be.
It's the home of football.
Well,
there's a lot of money and commercial opportunities being wasted. A football trail, that pub that's opposite the Hallam ground at Sandygate that's empty and derelict. It wouldn't, I mean, you and I haven't got the money to put into it, but there must be people out there who can see this opportunity. You know, it's a massive commercial opportunity that's been wasted. I absolutely, totally agree with you.
I think we'll see that change once the teams head to the Premier League, and then, you know,
will it though? Will it?
Well, I mean, we're in the Championship at the moment, so a step closer almost, would you say?
Well, I hope so. But it would, you know, 2 or 3 entrepreneurs getting together could. Well, it's not so much about making a killing. It's, you know, getting people to this city to appreciate that this is where it's all started. We're going to go to Ron Atkinson in a moment, but just before I do that, rugby union is a tale of 2 cities at the moment here, or 2 teams within a city. Sheffield Tigers doing really well, 5 wins in a row. They scored 45 points in just 25 minutes. Against Wharfdale last weekend. That's fantastic, well done. And good luck for the future to Sheffield, poor old Sheffield. Lost again to Huddersfield in their most recent fixture. Only 1 win this season. Both teams have a free weekend. Okay, let's go to Big Ron. This is from Oleton Stadium, the Carlton Palmer book launch event a few weeks ago. It's a pleasure to see Ron Atkinson again in absolutely a fine form. Talking about Carlton Palmer, of course, was a really big and important player for him. Ron, I suppose any new manager at any club wants to make a statement with his first signing, and it has to be an impact signing. I think you probably did that at Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, with CP?
Yeah.
Yeah, funnily enough, I've always had this saying, you know, you can make mistakes in the transfer market, but you shouldn't make mistakes with players you've already worked with. Now, I'd worked with Carlton at West Brom. In fact, I converted him from a back 4 player into a midfield player because I felt that he got too much energy to be. He could play there when he was in his latter years because he could run for fun. So we decided to put him in midfield and let him gallop away because that's something that's gone out of the game. I think midfield players that can run from box to box.
I was going to ask you, they're not too many. That
No, a lot of them are all what I call sitting players now, just laying it off and popping it about. He could run for fun. And then when we signed Shez, and we're just talking about it now, it was the perfect foil because he'd run people away and leave space for Shez to work the ball.
Why do you think it is that there aren't so many players like Carlton now?
I don't know. I mean, I know full well that, you know, I've been lucky over the years. Perhaps, you know, at Carlton, so I had the best of all time in Brian Robson, of course, who'd run from box to box. Liverpool had people like Terry McDermott, and I think it's something that's gone out of the game. You know, people are more intent on people sitting behind the ball and just passing it rather than running and affecting people.
And Carlton wasn't as appreciated as maybe he should have been, eh?
No, I tell you, the biggest compliment you can play Carlton Palmer, the players that played with him all knew what a good player he was. I mean, he got a bit maligned in the England thing when Graham Taylor had some bad times, and he was sort of singled out as what they would call a typical Graham Taylor player. Well, Graham Taylor had some very good players, by the way, Barnsley and people like that. But Carlton, to be fair, was a far better footballer than he was ever given credit for. I mean, he could deal with the ball, he could pass the ball. The worst thing he got in his locker was he wasn't a great finisher.
But he got a few goals despite that.
Got a few goals, but that was the biggest weakness in his game. Is that he should have scored a lot more goals. But in all fairness, people that played with him, he was a player's player, a manager's player. You knew the value he brought to your team, and the players alongside him knew as well.
And you were, as a manager, were never afraid to have characters, big personalities in the dressing room. None bigger, eh?
No, he very often he'd have a team talk. And Carlton, as you've seen in that book he's written, he's not afraid to speak his mind. And very often I'd have a team talk, and a typical thing was, anybody got anything to say, you can shut up.
Great memories. And you still, of course, you're often back in this part of the world, up in Sheffield. You retain a particular affection for Sheffield Wednesday. Any thoughts on the way they're going at the moment?
Well, it was good to see them beat Leeds. I was away, otherwise I'd have seen them. I'd have gone and seen them at Birmingham the week before. I actually thought that, and I still think they might still be in the frame. You know, I mean, they've had 2 near misses over the last 2 years, and I think those sort of things would stand them in good stead. And there is still a very long way to go. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him sneak in.
Yeah, after 2 years, it's very hard, isn't it, that third one, because of the expectations.
Well, it is, but, you know, at least they've got players that have been in that situation, that know they're within touching distance, and let's be fair, and there's a lot of, that is a very hard league, by the way, and if you look at the clubs that are in it, there's some massive football clubs in the Championship, and, you know, Sheffield Wednesday deserve to be, well, I say deserve, should be in the top echelon.
Recorded a few weeks ago, but still some highly relevant thoughts there from big Ron Atkinson talking about the Carlton Palmer book. There'll be more on the subject of a real large personality, as he was in every sense at Hillsborough, from David Hurst before the end of the show. We've got about 8 minutes left to go. As the show that we look forward to, 8 o'clock on Sheffield Live tomorrow, is going to be 8:30 in future weeks, I think.
It is, yeah, and it will be a half an hour show. I mean, it's just a one-off 1 hour special. We might do a few more 1 hour specials here and there. But yeah, it is a 1 hour special, 8 o'clock, the big one, and after that, 8:30.
I know for a fact there's another huge football name that you've already got lined up, and you're not going to tell us who it is. I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
We want to keep it a bit of a surprise, but yeah, we've got quite a few in the pipework. So some great footballers, some great artists, actors, big names who have done really well, and it's great. I've never known so much great talent to come from Sheffield as well.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
It's wonderful that you're projecting that.
Yeah, well,
it's more a lifestyle program, how people are behind what they do, rather than.
And it just kind of, I mean, for myself, I'm more relaxed than doing what I normally do, present. But unlike the news, where I've got to be more formal and professional in a way.
Well, professional?
I know, right? Coming from me.
No, very good. I really look forward to that, and I'm sure lots of other people too. Just before we go to David Hurst, I mean, talking about raising the profile of the city, nobody's doing that more than, say, David Brooks at the moment. His debut for Wales Man of the Match as well against Panama this week. You know, I mean, and when you think that he can't get into Sheffield United's team at the moment, either.
Yeah, no, but it tells you all you need to know, doesn't it? I think that's one of the great things, one of the big effects David Brooks has probably had. He's on Mark Duffy as well. You know, because he was a cracking player, you know, to begin with, but you've certainly seen his game raise up a notch or two as well since David came onto the scene. Yeah, and he is at the minute, but. No, I mean, listen, delighted for the kid. He's a good lad. He's not your average footballer. If you get my drift, there's no sort of, you know, there's no edge to him. There's no real sort of glamour. I hope he stays that way. I'm sure he will stay that way. I don't think the staff at Sheffield United will let him be anything but. And you know what as well? One of the things I'm pleased with him is that people are shouting, including the people at the football club, you know, that what a great player this kid is. There's no point in pretending otherwise. No. I can always remember once doing a piece before a game against Arsenal, and getting the early days of email, and I'd done it about Sheffield United for the Arsenal website, and getting a very sort of snotty email from a supporter saying, "Well, thank you very much. You've just told Arsenal everything that they need to know now." So I mean, I was delighted that they obviously thought Arsene Wenger was going to listen to anything that I said, but. The other thing is, you know, listen, they already knew everything that Sheffield United do. Scouts across the world will already know about David Brooks.
No secret.
Celebrate him and enjoy it.
And they do that. Yeah. And as you say, he's got fantastic formative influences on him at a young age of his career.
Still less than 30 games into his senior career as well, isn't he, I think?
So much to come, so much to look forward to. And I think he could be a real weapon from the bench in certain games as well this season. Just go back to Ola Stadium a few weeks ago. I caught up again with David Hurst and his thoughts on, you know, a celebrated former teammate. David Hurst, Carlton Palmer is a big guy in every respect, isn't he?
Massive character, and in stature as well as comedic value. But a great lad all the same. You know, he's was a fantastic player, and a good lad to be around.
I was talking earlier to Ron Atkinson about there being very few of his type of player in the game now. That box-to-box, that piston engine style. Why do you think that is?
I think the game's changed. I think, you know, Carlton was a special player. You know, like you say, box to box, but he could play as well. You know, he got pace. He'd tattle, loved to tattle. you know, and he could distribute it to players out wide. You know, played great in the middle of the park with John Sheridan, you know, as a two. But the way it is at the moment, I think it's not a box to box. I think the closest you get was Leicester's Kante. You know, when he was at Leicester, I think he was the closest I've seen really to Carlton for doing the disruption in a game, rather than not always the creativity, but to disrupt a game. Carlton was one of the best, yeah, definitely.
When you hear that a former teammate that you've played with for quite a while, and indeed at 2 clubs, has written a book, and you know he's a bit of a character, and you've had a few beers with him on occasions, let's just say that. How do you think, oh my God, what's he going to say in there? Are you a bit nervous about it?
Are you asking, was I nervous? Is that what is he going to put in about me? No. Carlton knows what the situations are, and you know, we, like you say, we had some great times at Sheffield Wednesday, some great times at Southampton, and I've known him a long time, and you know, he's always he says that he didn't want to write a book. It was a recent thing. Carlton's always had a good life in football. He's got stories to tell, you know, whether it be with managers, with games, or with colleagues. You know, so, I mean, the biggest surprise was when you say he'd written a book. I thought he'd coloured one in. 30 odd years he's been trying to colour that in. But no, when he rang me up and he said, Hurst, yeah, my book's finished, you know, and then asked me to come to one of the book launches, I was happy to come along, yeah, because I know there'll be some great stories in there. I've not read the book yet, you know.
Is he giving you a copy? Or you
well, I might have to steal one. I don't know. He's not mentioned it of yet, but then again, he's not bought me a drink tonight either. Oh. So, but yeah, I will read the book. Yeah, hopefully I'm not in it.
I think you might just be. I think you might squeeze in there somewhere.
I think there'll be a few stories where me and Carlton probably involving a drink or two, I would imagine, that'll sneak in there.
It is what it is. That's the title of Carlton Palmer's autobiography. I'm sure plenty of people get that for Christmas. I raced through it. You've yet to read it, I think, but it's a very, very entertaining book. As you can imagine, he doesn't hold back on anything. So do recommend that. James, Burton Albion for you. Hey, by the way, there's a limit to what we can say on this programme. Do pay a visit to the gents at the Pirelli Stadium. Okay? I'll say no more.
I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, do. And when we come off air, I'll tell you exactly why.
I'll make a note of that. Although...
I'm sure you will.
I will say at Yeovil Town, they did used to have flowers in the gents.
Right.
It was always a bouquet of flowers.
Yeah.
And I did check both gents' toilets in the grounds once.
Uh-huh.
And there was one in each. It wasn't a mistake. Yeah.
Well, this is more to do with target practice, shall we say. Little bit of
I think I know what you might be.
Okay. Yeah. All right. But let's hope there's a few goals there. I think there will be. Is it live on Sky, this one? Or
no.
It's not?
No, I don't believe it is. Do you know what? I should know.
I was thinking it was. I'm not due to do it, but I was really hoping it was going to be on the box so I can watch it from the pub.
No, I think probably it's. I do that. Do you know what? I think it's a game worthy of TV, though.
Yeah.
If it's not. Yeah. I'm making myself look stupid here. I know that. I should know whether it's on or not, but I'm there anyway, so it doesn't matter, does it?
He's only Sheffield United report,
I'm there anyway, so it doesn't matter.
He never gets time to watch it on TV. He's always there.
But I think it's got all the. I mean, it's got the subplot of obviously, you know, the new manager, former manager. Two managers have obviously got a huge amount of respect for each other. Ex-players in the Burton Albion squad, and two very different types of football clubs.
Yeah,
and I think he's got everything.
Yeah. He should be a really.
He should be the guy that's promoting this, honestly. He's really going for it, isn't he?
Well, that's it. We could talk all night. We could bore you to death, but we're not going to. Back with a repeat at 11 p.m. It's on my YouTube channel this evening. Thanks, Az. Thanks, James. See you next week.